Take us back to the beginning. How did you discover your passion for storytelling?
I have always told stories. I used to tell my brother and sister these things called group stories, which were community, like a kind of a group of friends defined by us, our cousins, and like some kids from church. And we would go on adventures in these worlds without grown-ups. But I didn't know that I could take storytelling seriously until actually I graduated from law school, and I was thinking about going on to becoming a law professor or writing this fantasy novel swimming around in my head. And my husband was like, you're so excited about this novel, just why don't you just try it? And it seemed like such a big daunting thing, but I did it, and the novel came pouring out of me, and my friends read it in 2 days, and I was like, wow, I guess there really is something here. So I think that's when I first realized, okay, maybe this is worth exploring. And I have, since had a 10-year journey of growing
Yeah,
in my craft. But it's been a good one.
that 10-year journey. When you look at your career, who or what's had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
I've had a number of wonderful mentors over the years. My Judge Rogers on the DC circuit, I look to her often for just so many life lessons. Like she told me very early on, look, I've got two little dogs, you've got two little kids. Like those, those are the most important things in your life, right? And to make sure you kind of keep that in front of you. At the same time, she also said to me things like, you and your friends will help each other get to the places you need to get. Or she once told me that I had a mind that was as smart as they come, right? And I didn't know, right? So I was like, oh, good to hear. She wrote that in a letter to Stanford as well, right? So it's just like little encouragements like that I think shored me up over the years. My kids joke that I talk about my judge all the time. The other person that was really influential was one of my mentors at Vermont College of Fine Arts, Amanda Jenkins. She publishes under A.M. Jenkins, and she taught me to get to the emotional core of my stories. When I came to her, I knew how to polish a piece because I'd been an editor with the Law Review at Columbia, and of course, clerking. I learned how to write, incredibly well through by working with the judge, writing opinions to the court. But those are really different than writing fiction. And Amanda taught me how to deconstruct all my scenes and really just find the emotional kernel of each one and then write towards that. So I now plot only according to emotional arcs, thanks to her.
Talk in the past about the adversity you faced trying to get your first novel published. During those more challenging times, how are you able to persevere?
And my community around me. So I had wonderful critique partners, Saba Tahir, Stacey Lee, I.W. Gregorio, Sonia Mukherjee, and Kelly Lloyd Gilbert, as well as Stephanie Garber. And all of them came around me like time, they were still reading my stuff. And even though I was the only one not published, and they would continue to, and I'm like, why are you still reading my stuff? And they said, your stuff is good. There's reasons you're not getting through the gates. And when Loveboat Taipei was rejected at draft 26, that was when I was at my like I had hit rock bottom with my writing because that was my fifth novel, 26 drafts, and I just didn't know what to do to get better. But again, Saba, like she read it, she's like, okay, you need to do this to fix it. I scrapped that whole entire novel and I rewrote it from the ground up from just one point of view. That was something I realized, like there was just too much story for one novel. And that one went on to become the book that's now
Yeah.
on the shelves. So I think just having that encouragement of people who believe in you, people around you who know what you're trying to do and know that you know how to get better is really important.
Taipei has meant a lot to various communities that have often felt unseen, and it's been incredibly well received. What has that response meant to you? And did that bring any pressure heading into Love Boat reunion?
Yeah, it has been amazing to hear from so many readers that they feel so seen. And um, I felt that again when I came out to Taipei to film. I met a production crew of 30 people on my first day, and when they introduced me as the author, everyone started applauding, and the first words out of my mouth had been, "I'm so grateful for all of you." And I realized, when they were applauding that, wow, this movie means so much to them. Like, not only do they have a job, they get to work on a film about themselves. And, I've just had that experience over and over and over with book one, and definitely with book two. It's a, I think it's more of the same. It's like, these characters continue to have a story or stories that are story worthy, that are worth audiences looking at and hearing. But it's also about cognitive differences. So Sophie Ha and Xavier Ye are the two leads in this one, and both of them have qualities that maybe on the surface may not always be so appealing. So Sophie is a bit of a wild card. She's kind of running in every direction, has a lot of energy, tends to overwhelm people around her. And Xavier has learning differences that keep him from actually being able to read, even though he's in a very high
Mm.
performing culture. But they are both able to learn over the course of the novel how they can harness these seemingly, negative qualities and actually understand what are the superpowers, the strengths that come with them.
What's that process been like bringing Loveboat Taipei from the page to the screen? And is there a particular moment that you're really excited for fans to see brought to life in a different medium?
Yeah, so I've described it as Loki coming face to face with another Loki. It's like experiencing the multiverse over and over again, with like from the screenplay being written to each take of the film, like each scene being filmed over and over. Because you do eight takes from different angles with different emotions and kind of trying out different approaches to the dialogue, and every time it's the same. It's like I just get to hear like a different iteration. And of course, the cast, they know their characters as well as I know them, and to be able
Mm.
to talk with them about the characters has been so rewarding. Um, I think, yeah, I'm excited for what people will get to see on the screen. It's an amazing movie already, even though it's still in pieces, and that's the next part. We're going to be stitching it together. I think that the most exciting parts for me for the film medium are the views of Taipei and
Mm.
the dance sequences. Those are things that you
Yeah.
just can't capture in words the same way that you can on film.
Loveboat Reunion drops next week. What can fans expect? And did the fan response to Loveboat Taipei affect the story that we'll see it unfold?
Oh, good question. So Sophie Ha has not been a favorite across the board. I have had friends tell me like, "Am I weird that I relate more to Sophie than ever?" And I've also had fans that really hate Sophie. They don't think she's forgivable. And that I think I did have fans for like, I don't want to read a book about Sophie. On the other hand, everyone loves Xavier. Like
Mhm.
there are hashtags justice for Xavier. They feel like Xavier, like some people are like, why did I ever choose Rick over Xavier? And so here it is. This book is it's largely actually Xavier's story, because it's about Xavier's family, and Sophie's journey is intertwined with Xavier's family, as readers will find out. So, and then I think the feedback I've gotten already from readers who have read the second one is, wow, like now I understand where Sophie was coming from, and they understand her. So I'm excited. I mean, that's really part of what I do, is try to showcase that humanity in everyone.
Yeah.
And so sometimes what we see on the surface about another person isn't really what's going on underneath. And often that's the case. And that's the case with Sophie and Xavier.
What would you say is the biggest lesson you learned writing Loveboat Taipei that you've now brought over to Loveboat Reunion?
Ooh, good question. I think to probably keep the story tighter. So with
Mm.
Loveboat
Yeah.
Taipei, I had too much story. I had four different point narratives going on, and sometimes five, because I was also writing from Jenna's point of view at times. And I think the more books I write, the more I realize, okay, not everything needs to go into this book. This can go into something else. Or not. I start to recognize like tangents more easily, and realizing, okay, that might actually be a fourth book, or even maybe that goes into a TV series, or something else that I'm working on. And so that's helping me to kind of keep the story more streamlined.
And both novels tackle so many timely and relevant themes. Was there one in particular that hit home for you?
I think the theme of family is really strong in both of them. Ever has a really fraught relationship with her parents, where she's not able to tell them, how much dancing means to her. But Xavier's relationship with his father is even worse. His father was abusive growing up, and did not understand that Xavier needed help above all, like needed support for his learning differences. In some ways would just rather it be wished away somehow. So his father has failed him in a lot of ways. But his family is very complicated. It's a wealthy Taiwanese business family, and with an empire structure where family is business and business is family, and so there's a politics within the family that Xavier's got to navigate, and that is inspired somewhat from my mom's family, which is, she came from a wealthy family in the Philippines with like 13 brothers and sisters. But it's also, a story of um, a son and a father and how they can come to understand each other better.